Team numbers back attack. Good idea. Yeah. Yeah, I told. Yeah. Andy, yeah. So, yeah, remember to ask questions from me. I'm happy to, if they've got them, because I should finish on time. So I'm saying over. You put the sponsors back up.
Yep.
Last night, I got sister in the might want to wait because it takes 54 hours. Last time.
I'm going to go out highway 2 to highway 5 and see if that's relevant or finding my way up.
Yeah. We're going to chat. I'd like to chat with you.
It's a pretty easy job when you're ahead of it.
Yeah.
Do you have them all on here now?
Yeah, they're all on here.
Let's see. What we needed is a person who's full-time dedicated to this. Because in the past, I've arrived here and there's been nobody responsible for this. And then some of the speakers think that because they've emailed the presentation to someone, it's here. And then it didn't quite get through the link. I got to keep reminding myself what I'm talking about. Because, like I said, it's little stories that you tell on each slide that's interesting, and they're in your head. They're not on the slide. So. Yeah, I know. Don't read out the slide. Sometimes you're up here. That's all you can see. That's all you can remember.
No, it's funny just how much because I just finished up school, and they'll dock you a grade if for every time you look at the slides. They're really intense team presentations now.
Wow.
And it's funny because I was like, oh, okay, I guess everything has to be memorized, and then you come out and you get your first job, and then your boss just starts printing off the slides.
I know.
You're just like, what?
Keep that level up there, because you've got to be better. If someone's reading, they're not good.
Yeah.
What you find is most people are average. That's by definition.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be that good to be better than the rest. But only fall back to being average when you've got no other alternative.
Yeah.
All the time.
It's interesting because I guess I've noticed for like this, for more formal presentations, people they won't be reading off the slides. They have it reversed.
You hope.
But when it's an internal meeting, it's just presentation.
Oh yeah.
Boss is just looking up the slides like, hey, we're clearly not doing well this quarter. You guys.
The worst thing is when you're reading out. It is. The thing is, what I want to do is 2 pages, because what I do with 2 pages, you know what's coming up next, so you can set it up, which is the key. But I had some notes, so I couldn't do 2 pages, and now I'm going to go, what am I going to do? I'm going to walk around with this, which is going to look terrible, so I'm going to get down. So I'm just, I don't know. So I ran through it a few times, but hopefully the slides are in the right order and nothing will come up in the wrong way. I can talk about each one, but what we really should do is know your stuff.
Yeah. It's all practice.
Yes.
That's what I noticed too. I used to, when I was younger, as a sophomore, I was like, okay, I'll just wing it. I'll be fine. And, it doesn't work out that well.
Don't plan to wing it.
Yeah.
I hope I didn't. I really.
No.
The last time I talked to the first speaker was so nice, and of course I remember that driving here this morning because they actually said, "We're thinking of doing this. Is that not okay?"
Yeah. I read the other people's. I'm thinking there's going to be some overlap, but we find that because the same things of interest.
Yeah.
And behavioral economics really infiltrated the last one. We've gone a little bit further with that, but yeah, I'm going to probably do a quick system 1, system 2 recap just to make sure everybody's come along and remind people what it is, and then go into it. But yeah, thanks for.
And I have to apologize because of last night. I got caught in the airport in LaGuardia.
Must have been a bit scary.
Way behind. Well, it was weird. I was on the 6 o'clock shuttle to get back to Texas. I had a lot of work to do last night. The U.S. Air did its usual terrible job. There were a lot of storms in between Boston. So I checked. Boston was fine. New York was fine. But in between, there were storms that were so bad in Connecticut that
They wouldn't let you fly.
Wow.
So 7, 8, 9, 6, 7, 8, 9 were all held up. They canceled the 9. Then they canceled the 8. Then they canceled the 7. But and a couple of us too, they must have needed a crew. So somehow the plane finally got to New York. We got in around 1. And tomorrow I'm going, for God forbid, something for you both to report my 45th college reunion. So I got to get out. It's just a disaster. So I do apologize.
No.
I'd love to be able to hear you in that.
It'll be fun. Yep. Thanks for coming anyway.
That was great. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Yeah, I'll email you.
So we're next up. Yeah.
The issue is more like corral everyone back in time.
No, it's always a tough one. And I don't know, I haven't quite timed this, but I generally work a minute a slide, is what I would say, that you're probably not going to be longer than that. And there's 34 slides, so I've got 50 minutes. If you finish early, nobody's going to worry.
There's not really here. Oh.
That's what it's for, I think.
Yeah, there's
So
definitely.
you can see. And I'm all set up. Do you get the lapel thing off it?
Yeah. Oh, that's down there. The
Lapel
other one.
one. Yeah, because we've had speakers walk off with them.
Oh, well, I don't want that. I don't want to get that charged.
No, we'll say. There was a British politician who was mic'd up and forgot he was mic'd up, got into a car He'd been accosted by a member of the public, and they talked to him, and he was nice to the member of the public, but he got in the car and he goes, "Who was that woman? Who let her through? She was just a racist." It was Gordon Brown, and he was all on mic, and it was all relating back to the guy giving him the mic. So I think that's PR 101. Is know when you're on. Know when you're on.
Oh man, my girlfriend's in PR. Just so much PR nowadays. It's ridiculous.
Everything's spin. There's no substance anymore.
Everything's just, we have, for like another term, professional bullshit. That's what they are. And with some of my friends, it's funny because...
It's not a new concept, though.
No,
professional
it's
bullshit
not,
is
but
forever.
now it's become a lot more, especially with the advent of social media and everything.
There's a lot more around.
So scripted.
Yeah.
And it's because all, you know, in my fraternity at school, you know, we had all the guys, we had 80%, 80% of finance, of course. They want to go to IB and make, you know, just...
Yeah, money. Money makes money.
They want to go to a bulge bracket and, you know, work in IB, get in PE, and then, you know, work 100 hours a week, but, you know, also make 7 figures, you know.
Yeah.
And then but what's funny is, now where it used to be like, you know, 70% finance, and it used to be like the other 30% with like STEM degrees. Now it's like 15% STEM, 15% comp, you know, ton of almost every sorority girl at BU goes in PR.
Is there money in PR?
There's at the top.
At the top. You own the company.
So like you'll start
It's
out
interesting, and you've got to be good looking as well.
Yes.
All women in PR are good looking.
Oh, yeah, they are. Yeah, that's very true. But she starts next week. Actually, she just graduated. And
Where's she starting?
Prozac Partners. It's the third best financial PR firm in terms of like revenue. And so they work primarily with banks and stuff, and be like, hey, yes, we did steal everyone's money and manipulate the markets, but we're not bad people. You know, that's what she does. And so the job, what you do is you go and you get paid. I mean, she's in New York, she's going to be making 40, so she's going to be struggling. But the idea is you go work at an agency for a few years.
That's right.
Then you transition to an in-house PR.
Oh, yeah, because you learn so much faster.
Yeah, and then you learn a lot faster on the agency. It's more like market research where you work.
But they don't pay. Agencies don't pay.
Don't pay. Then you get in-house, go to work like a big bank, or go to work for a big company, and then they'll pay you just to, you know how to do it
because you've been exposed to so much. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
That's the right way to do it. It's like if you go client side in market research, it's really hard to get back again because agency side is so much more work. Than client side. There's a little bit more politics involved in client, obviously, that stuff, but basically we try to recruit people from the client side, from the agency, and they think they do research, but they don't. They really tell other people to do research. And they're going, oh no, you're doing it now.
No, it's interesting. Yeah, and then and obviously the dream is to become a CCO. Now that's the thing. Now they have chief communications officers.
I always thought chief information officer should have been a market researcher, if you think about it, and yet they weren't. CIOs are the technical people.
Yeah.
They haven't got any information. What are they talking about?
What's funny is if you talk to like any software developer or anything, calling them IT is very derogatory because they're like, oh, IT. I'm not some guy who just sits on the call service center.
Yeah. What do they call themselves then?
Software developer, software engineer.
Yeah, they like software engineer. They do like that.
They'll do anything, to inflate the title. But because we're working on. I've been talking to a few custom software development companies because right now AMS internally we're using this old software for voice to customer research, and this was a macro and a desktop icon that was built 20 years ago. We can only run it on XP. So we're kind of making a decision. Hey, maybe we should, come to the 20%.
To do what? What do you need to do?
Just rebuild, make a new tool.
For online surveys or what?
Yeah, for our voice of the customer, where we highlight the needs and build a database and everything like that. Just kind of our.
Is it an analytical package?
Yeah, it's an analytical package, and we're just working on. We want it to be like a web browser application where anyone can go in and use it rather than just being a standalone software program. The problem is everyone, all these software companies are like, oh well, 50K minimum project, it'll be like 100K just with the software.
Yeah. I was going to say, you got to watch out. And don't try and build it yourself. Now. That's going to be
like, okay, this will be interesting.
We should probably get people came back in. And we're supposed to start at 20. Yeah, we should. 10:20. Yeah. Let's see if I get, I'll get it up now. It's an easy way to escape, isn't it? And I got to see if I can manage this. So left is forward?
No, the big buttons. Left is forward, right is back. Stay away from the scroll wheel.
Does that really flips you forward?
Yep.
All right then.
Oh, and when you have your video,
I come back in.
Well, no, you can just set down the mouse so you can use it and then click on it.
Thank you. I look as if I'm talking. I'll flash this to the audience.
Sneak by you if you don't mind.
Hi. Please take your seats. We're going to start again in a minute. Hi, everyone. Thanks. Thanks for getting seated. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our next speaker. I've been working closely with him for the past year on the NEMRA board, Owen Jenkins. last fall at our conference, one of our biggest hit topic sessions was the Irrational Consumer. That was by Namika Segura, and in fact, she's actually speaking at the upcoming national show. And her talk focused on behavioral economics, and it was all about Daniel Kahneman's book, which Rob mentioned, Thinking Fast and Slow, and helps us understand how consumers make sometimes irrational choices. And the feedback we had about how challenging it was to have System 1 and System 2 type questions. As researchers, either the service agencies such as Owen's company or corporate researchers such as many of you in our audience, there's a good chance that marketers or product managers have come to you asking for your help in understanding what consumers are thinking. Our next session is geared toward addressing exactly that, how to get answers to questions we know consumers struggle with. It's a real pleasure for me to be able to introduce Owen Jenkins as co-CEO of Cadence North America. Owen has been heard to say that his firm delves into research to find the insights many others have missed. In this session, we'll learn how to get answers without asking. Please help me welcome Owen Jenkins.
Thanks, Andy. Good morning, everybody. I was 16 years old once, and as a 16-year-old, my high school brain was full of interesting and important things, such as biology, physics, chemistry, rugby, and girls. And I had this strategy for attracting the members of the opposite sex, which is I would join the Combined Cadet Force, which is a branch of the armed forces run through high schools in the UK. And I thought I'd get to wear a nice snazzy uniform. I would have the blue uniform because I would be in Her Majesty's Navy. And there was a crusty old vet who was our sort of guiding light, who was a lieutenant. And he always asked us to report for duty ready, willing, and able. And when I was putting this presentation together, I realized that that's really what we want our respondents to be. We want them to be ready, we want them to be willing, and we want them to be able to help us. The problem is, ready is pretty easy. You've got to tell them it's market research and what you're going to do with the data, so you can prepare them for this. Willing is a little bit harder for some people. Put your hands up if you've ever been in an actually IDI as a respondent. Right, so we do a lot of them, but we don't actually experience it ourselves from that side of things. We try and guess what it's like. But more of you have actually been in a job interview, which is like an interview. And the willingness to say the truth in a job interview, I think, is tempered a little bit by what do you think the other person's going to think. So you'll end up with some questions you might answer this way, but really what you're thinking is this. So you've got them ready, you might get them willing to talk about stuff, but are they able? Now, the ability comes out of two areas. One is, can you actually talk about this? Can you in some way communicate what you feel? And the second thing is, are you conscious of the feelings you have? This is wine tasting. I don't know if any of you can speak wine, but it is a foreign language. I cut and paste that. I can't even pronounce it, so I'm not going to read it out. So this is a person who knows why he chose his wine. He can communicate this. It probably puts him in a minority of one or two in the audience here today. But did you know that if you played French music whilst he's in the liquor store choosing wine, he's more likely to choose French wine, and afterwards he will not recall the music? So how on earth are we going to be able to find that if he doesn't even know that that's happened? Well, the good news is there is a guiding light. His name is Daniel Kahneman, and Rob, in the previous one, may have talked about it, and a number of you put your hands up about System 1 and System 2. And he is he's a Nobel winner in economics, and he came up with the brain being split into two systems. This doesn't mean it's physiologically two systems, like left brain and right brain. It means it processes data in two different ways. And the first one is what he calls System 1, quite simple, and it's spontaneous, intuitive, and it's always on. System 2, is methodical and lazy. So it's like we're at work here, and that's when we're at play. I don't know. So you probably can all answer that using system 2, straight off. Can anybody shout out the answer to this? You can hear system 2 winding in the background. All right, so we could definitely say that's system 2. So that's really a nice, simple way of showing how the two. It's a lot of effort, isn't it? Most of you probably didn't try, did you? Honestly, you went, oh, I'm not even going to do that. I'm not going to be the first person, so I won't get any credit for this. I might get it wrong. And that was system 2, fighting yourself there. So, however, there are some people who can answer that within system 1. You've probably seen it on TV or whatever, where they answer incredible. So what happens is system 1 can get increasingly smarter. And I was aware of this because I was teaching a teenager to drive. And teenagers start in system 2. Absolutely. They are thinking it through before they do it. However, when you're good at it, you end up system 1. You must have all been driving and you've forgotten the last 10 minutes. You go, oh my God, is that good? Yes, it is good. You're doing it system 1. I think some of the best sports people do system 1. I don't know the Red Sox are currently in system 2. I know that because they can't hit the ball. So Manny Ramirez, they said, wasn't very smart as far as system 2 is concerned, but see ball, hit ball. That's all he had to do there. So you have these two systems, and the system 1 is fantastic. I'm going to guess you probably like this. System 1, you probably don't like that. And if I asked you why, I don't know what I'm going to get as a response. You're probably going to say I didn't like it, but why didn't you like it? You're not even aware of some of the things. You have processed a lot of information by looking at that slide. So system 1 is first impressions, snap judgment. System 2, a little bit slower, might get some why, may take some time, may get some rationalization, some justification. What's interesting here is another layer. Which one do you like? You might like one, and then system 2 comes in, actually I can't have that one though. Maybe I need the van. And that's system 2 and system 1 in conflict. So we've got lots of problems with system 1 and system 2 here. So in summary, system 1 is the gatekeeper. It is always on. It's always aware of everything, essentially. And it then, every now and then, it'll ask system 2 to pay attention to something. The system 2 can only come in when it's being told by system 1 to come and get involved. Hence the fact you've got all these brain teasers that fake you out. There's one later on I'm going to have where system 1 just thinks you got it right. The one I remember is how many of each animal did Moses take on the ark? Anybody know? 0. I said Moses. So system 1 ruled for all of you. Didn't even think to ask system 2 because he knew what the answer was. Good news is the brain is an efficient organ. Every organ in the body is efficient. And it tries to process as much information as quickly as it can, sometimes incorrectly. If we assume that you can read 300 words a minute, that's system 2, reading is. And let's say there's 6 words a second. Let's say 5 letters to a word, and let's say 2 characters, 2 bits of information is a letter. Then really you're processing 50 bits per second. That's what system 2 can do. How much do you think the body is giving you through its data capturing field force, which are the 5 senses? Let's just keep ourselves to the central nervous system. What do you think the bits are? What do you think the taste is? People estimated this, obviously, but taste? 1,000 bits, I think. Taste is 1,000, and that's the poorest of the senses. Hearing, 100,000 a second. And they actually think, potentially, when you get to vision, it's 10 million. Now, these can be out by factors or whatever, but it's still, you're talking about, that's how much your brain is analyzing, and you have no awareness of this, no consciousness of this. And yet, we want to know some of this stuff in market research, because this is making decisions, and we want to influence decisions. So, what's the good news in here? There's always good news. The human brain generates electricity. That's how the central nervous system works. And it could run a light bulb. And we can measure electricity using this. Electroencephalography, EEG. And what it can do is you can put things on your head, and it will measure the electrical impulses just below your scalp. I'll go, well, that's quite nice. Well, what could we do with that? The good news is this neural activity is not just you can show that it's on or off. It vibrates. Neural oscillations, it's called brain waves. And depending on the vibration and the frequency, these generate different types of waves. And as in good physics, they use the Greek alphabet. And there's 5 of them. And if you look at these bands, you can work out, and we worked with, here at Cadence, we worked with some neuroscientists in Europe. Actually, our guys in the Far East actually developed this. And they said, we can figure out by using this that the brain is doing one of 2 things. It's focusing, it's paying attention to something, or it's activating the memory. And by the way, they think memory is read-write. That is, when you create a memory or you bring an old memory back up, it's the same process. So when you think about a past memory, you reactivate it. So you layer another one on top. Hence the fact that sometimes your memories go further and further away from the truth because you're rewriting them each time. So if we can figure out if someone's paying attention and if they're using their memory, maybe we can find out if they're engaged in stimulus that we're showing them. So let's say, for example, we can create 5 brain states. So if focus and memory is high, we'll call that cognition. If it's not so high, it's partial. Can you imagine if you're focused on something, but your memory's not working? It means you're not making sense of it. So you're going, oh, I'm trying to get this to figure out. And you're going, well, we're going to call that confused. What happens if your memory's active, but you're not focusing? You're daydreaming. Think of something else. We'll call that detached. And if they're both at a low level, we'll call that sleep. So you go, wow, that's quite good. Because I can show something to somebody, and then depending on what they're doing, I can find out if they're interacting with the stimulus. And here's where technology comes in. Because before, you'd have to be in a hospital with 48 nodes and paste and gels and shaved head, maybe, to get a good connection. But now, if I can get this right, we can show. This is that's what you need to do, is just put a thing that looks like a headset. We actually have got some eye tracking going on as well. This is speeded up. So we show them something, and we're capturing their responses. And at the end, you notice there's a few more questions, which I'll come into it, because you can't just rely on the brain. So as you saw at the end of that, you saw a couple of questions, and that's because if we just relied on this, about 15 years ago, I believe, neuroscience really came off. People thought that, wow, this is the answer to everything. We can just attach something and we'll know exactly what people are thinking. And maybe 20, 30, 40 years from now, but it's not enough right now. We need to have someone explain. We can show there's been a reaction. We don't know why there's been a reaction. Also, we've already proved that brains can be fooled by Moses. And you've seen this before, haven't you? You know they're all the same length. They're not, are they? Are they? Yeah. So we can't rely on system 1 only. So we suggest you do capture system 2 as well. So you can do things like, do you recall the message? Tell us what you saw. What brand was it? Right? Would you change your behavior because of this? So we would suggest if you do any physiological measurement, you also add some sort of standard market research. And maybe even add some other physiological measurements, as I mentioned, or you indicated in the last video, that you might do some eye tracking, because you can see what they're looking at when their brain gets detached or has cognition. So this is the sort of thing we might do. You come to a CLT or a focus group, you watch something, you do system 1 recording, and then we break off and either interview you, or we may even put you in a focus group. And for that, we can build on, we know what you did, we know how you reacted, but we can figure out why. So here's an application. So what could it do for a commercial? Commercial's great, it's visual. Was it, did I say 10 million bits a second? It's got to be system 1. So what you could do is maybe show them some of the animatics or the semi-finished films or the actual commercial itself. And then you can find things out like, is it executing the way we wanted it to? Is there something we should improve or change? You know, what was interesting? What caught their attention? What messages, or how does this resonate with the brand? So here's an example. Now, as I said, this was developed by our Indonesian office. So this is in Bahasa Indonesian. So if anybody is an Indonesian speaker, please tell me what this product is about. And what we're going to show is
how we
Sebuah persembahan untuk wanita Indonesia, sumber ayu daun sirih whitening. Pertama di Indonesia dengan ekstrak susu dan bengkoang yang membantu mencerahkan daerah kewanitaan. Dengan kayu rapet dan manjakani yang mengencangkan daerah kewanitaan. Temukan rahasia mengencangkan dan mencerahkan daerah kewanitaan dari sumber ayu daun sirih whitening. Baru.
So we have second by second. We've got some good cognition at the end, nice to finish. Very poor start though. And the start of a commercial, like at the start of a presentation, the start of anything, first impressions matter. So there was some problem with the start of this commercial. So what we found is the detached thing, the initial scenes didn't seem to grab them. They didn't understand the flower magnifier. So there was changes made to the final film. We went to sleep in the bit where the whitening ingredient was mentioned. So that was put more onto a voiceover. And then there was partial recognition at the end. They felt the romantic scene went on too long, so that was shortened a little bit. So then the final commercial looked a bit more like this.
Pertama di Indonesia, baru sumber ayu dengan whitening. Dengan ekstrak susu dan bengkuang yang membantu mencerahkan kulit sekitar area kewanitaan, serta kayu rapet dan manjakani yang membantu daerah kewanitaan terasa kencang. Saya sudah membuktikan, cobalah. Baru dari sumber ayu dengan whitening.
So it's not always cognition, you'll never get that. But at the beginning and the end, which is two strong points of a commercial, it scored better. But you've still got lots of colours in here, and you're going, well, what is this good? I mean, you can pinpoint some areas where it's doing well, but overall, is it performing? So we put together some key performance indicators. So on the left-hand side, you do the System 1 scores, and these are the norm scores across a number of commercials we've tested, and you can see how this one tested. So obviously, you want the confused and detached to be low scores, and you want cognition and partial cognition to be higher scores. So it does well in the System 1. And then we asked questions about brand recall before and afterwards, and it scored better than the norm. The primary message didn't score so well, so they still had some work to do on this commercial, but we saw it had an impact in potential purchase. So the commercial was working on those levels and working in some of the marketing metrics you might want to use. Here's another one. We looked at this, and we looked very specifically about how to help fix this. So this is the commercial that actually aired. Again, it's for Indonesia. And it's about a product that helps people basically eat the same breakfast and enjoy it every day because it's a flavor ingredient.
Trứng nữa nha mẹ. Ăn chỉ một món khiến trẻ dễ mất cân bằng khẩu vị và không đủ đầy tươi khỏe. Nước tương tam thái tử với vị ngọt đậu kết hợp với quy trình chiên su giúp cân bằng vị ngon cho mọi món ăn. Và giúp cả nhà đủ đầy tươi khỏe.
Hôm nay ăn trứng nữa hả con?
Đâu có, con ăn hết luôn. Nước tương tam thái tử cân bằng vị ngon đủ đầy tươi khỏe.
Jinsu Foods.
So you can see how the brain keeps moving. It keeps, and by the way, the absolute values here don't always determine the brain state. It's relativeness because you can't stay at the same state. Your brain's always moving. So if you can have a high score and then it drops, and then actually the state will change in your favor. So what they had a problem here is when we put some KPIs together is great scores on the System 1, again, a good brand recall afterwards and before, a good purchase shift. But then this primary message, which was the daily consumption thing, didn't seem to work. So we said, well, can we actually focus and help them about why that doesn't work? And yes, so this was the brain states. And they say this first thing is detached. And that's where they got the essential message. I don't know if you remember it, but it was, these are the eye tracking heat maps. So you can see it's faces. That's where a lot of the thing goes into faces. Did anybody notice that they changed their clothes between the third and fourth second? Did anybody notice that the 1 and the 3 changed? They were trying to infer the data changed. So it wasn't the same feeding, it was the second feeding. So people go, wow, that's obviously we did miss that. So I'll go back and, because you're all now going, did I see that? So let's see if we can all see that change.
Trứng. Trứng nữa nha mẹ. Ăn chỉ một món khiến trẻ dễ mất cân bằng khẩu vị và không đủ đầy tươi khỏe. Nước tương tam thái tử với vị ngọt đậu kết hợp với quy trình chiên su giúp cân bằng vị ngon cho mọi món ăn.
the rest of it. So that really helped them get right down to a specific area that they needed to address. They thought they'd done it visually, but they had to do something on the voiceover as well. So some of the key learnings we found, specifically from TV commercials for this, we've got 120. Ooh, clicking the wrong one. First 3 seconds, that's what it's all about. If you're in TV land, you probably know this, but a lot of people fail that. You end up in non-cognition zone, they start daydreaming now. They're off track, they're thinking about something else. May even change channels. System 1 is not always engaged. That's not bad, but you've got to have enough engagement in the areas that you need it. The way our normative scores, we thought that 65% of the ads that we showed didn't get to what we thought were acceptable normative scores. And then if you just do System 2, it doesn't work, because those that pass the System 2 rational, they could justify it afterwards, more than half of them failed at the System 1 level. So you need both those. You need to be able to address both sides of the brain. And this is the thing we learned, which is don't just measure System 1. Even now, we're getting smarter at what it means, but it just shows there's a response. You need to know and dig below that. So we do things like eye tracker heat maps, which you saw. Ask about System 2. And what was nice in this particular thing is the second-by-second thing allows you to fix a commercial. If you just tell them it fails, the client's going to hate you. We spent a lot of money on this. Maybe change the voiceover and we can make it pass. They're going to like that. We've also actually used Fitbit type things. You know, there you can do the heart rate monitors. They were a bit more expensive when we started using it. And we used that in a sales presentation for a healthcare company where they got one of their sales guys to come in and pitch to it was actually an eye care professional. And they did the sales presentation, and we had the eye care professional wearing a wrist thing which had pulse and skin resistance. We could tell reaction, because in a business environment, people aren't going to let on. That's good, I like that, because they're going to think I'm going to pay more for that. So we watched them do this in a focus facility. The moderator watched this sales presentation and then made a note of where the responses were and then went back in and probed about those. In fact, it won us an award in the MRS in the UK for doing that. So although it looks like it's just TV commercials, it has B2B, and it possibly has everything application if we can keep getting the price come down, because you do need IDI interviews for these things. And I think that is it. Questions, I believe. Sorry. Yes, sorry, Marcy.
Have you ever tested to see if this really works? I mean, I'm not going to dispute the science of it and everything, but I mean, after you've done commercials or something, have you actually looked to see those lines and what it tells you?
Does this work?
Yeah.
It's a great, is it snake oil? I mean, because there's an interpretation involved. We've managed to test, I say now, about 150 commercials now, and we've seen improvements in terms of these metrics, and the clients like it, so they're coming back. So they must be seeing, we don't always get the feedback from the field in terms of how well a commercial does, and its impact on sales isn't always linear anyway. But yes, as far as we're concerned, we're getting a good sort of common sense feedback, because like I said, I think you're all sold on the eye tracking. That was an obvious one. I picked an obvious one, but there's some of the things a little bit more subtle. I'm not here to say we solved it, but I'm really here to say that you can do some physiological measuring now, and there could be alternative ways of doing this. And the technology is getting so good that it's certainly giving you some insight.
Because I would think an entertaining commercial could result in some really great lines, but doesn't necessarily mean it's going to do what the client really.
That's always been the case with commercials. You know, great ad, who was it for? I mean, it's always the case after the Super Bowl. Great commercials, and you're going to get no brand recall. That's why I need System 2. You know, I enjoyed this, I was engaged in it, but what message was left with them? So, you know, if System 2 proves, then that's the measurement you could say, does any market research work, I suppose, couldn't you?
Yep.
Did you go back and test once you, for the skin whitening product, did you go back and test the order in which it finished and the drafted version of it? So when you went from the first version to the second version, you got more positive results. Did you ever go back and test the order?
We actually tested 2 storyboards to start with, because I've noticed the commercial changed quite a bit, and we actually took parts from 2 storyboards. the problem about going back, I don't think we did in that case. The problem is you've got to watch the finish of the commercial. Once they see it's a finished commercial, people will definitely respond differently. So you really should do like for like.
So I was thinking that you would do it with a whole new group of people and show the new commercial and the old commercial, and then do it with another group.
Yeah, we did just, I didn't put the scores up, but we had KPIs which changed. So only, when I first introduced the KPI, it was after the full commercial. We did run it from the first one. We did see those numbers change. Not all of them move in the same direction, but it was an improvement overall.
So was there a preference for the second show never? That's my hypothesis.
The second show? You mean the full commercial?
The tour commercial and then the finished product, is that
Sorry, we had the storyboard and the finished commercial. The finished commercial scored better than the storyboard. No. Not finished commercials. The storyboard was a video, but it was really from storyboards, just animated.
Does it ever happen that the measurements you get to a commercial reactions, the brainwaves, are very different between respondents?
Yes, that's an average. That was based on 40 people. So you have to average it out because there's so many stimulus going on in the room. I couldn't see two people reacting the same way to the same thing.
And is there ever a really large variation?
I'm not familiar with the details enough on to be able to tell you where that would be the case. I would think there would be. I mean, we tried to get at minimum sample sizes of 40 or 50, even though it's an IDI. You've got to get that because the commercial is going to work on millions, I assume, and millions need to be represented somehow in the quantitative sampling.
And is the normative database that you have building those benchmarks, is that based on the 150 commercials?
Yes. Yes, 120 at that stage when they put those together. And it wasn't just the average. You tried to see things that were potentially more successful to see, just to give us an idea what's a good score and what's a bad score. Because, of course, that's something you need to build up.
Have you ever tried running sort of objectively amazing commercials that have been very successful and generated a lot of sales and seen how they...
Great idea. Great idea. Have you got any money? Anybody else? Bad one. Oh, no. If it's Andy, you can go again, Marcy. Yeah, no.
I can see in commercials, you have a controlled room and stuff, but for me, who work in insurance, one of the things that we're always wanting to know is how engaged are people when you're doing, say, informational meetings about selecting insurance products and stuff. Is there a way, or have you ever heard of this being used where you have a bunch of people in the room, they all have this gear on, and you have somebody up there talking, and you can track them?
It's feasible, absolutely feasible. I said we did the wristwatch for the sales presentation. We've never done the head for a sales presentation, but I could see it working there. So you can see, what's ringing, what's hitting their buttons definitely, and see what's getting a response, and whether it's a good response or a bad response.
So they don't actually have to be hooked up to the computer. I'm not a tech person, but
no, it's wireless. There's no wires, I think, so you can. But you would need separate tracking for each one. So I don't know if they interact with each other, because it's not live, real time. It has to get analyzed afterwards.
Right.
So that run, although it looks real time, it doesn't actually happen that way.
Do you think there's any difference in if you do this in the morning or in the evening? People's
It opens so many questions, isn't it? It's such a fun tool. Should we wear it all day? And we could track ourselves? Fitbit just does heart rate. I'd love to know what you're all thinking now. It really helped me. Who's detached? He's detached at the back. He's asleep. Yeah, so wouldn't it be? It becomes a great tool. It's not quite cheap enough, I think. The Fitbit's $100 now, isn't it, for heart rate monitor? You couldn't get below 300 a couple of years ago, maybe 500. So maybe this will come down, but it does need some interpretation, and there's some. And that interpretation, as Marcy mentioned, is where scientists sometimes differ. NASA uses this for engagement in tasks as well. They don't quite do the focus memory thing. I'm not sure what they do it, but it's attention to tasks whilst they're doing it. So they're on the board in terms of interpreting this. It's just who's doing your interpretation for you.
Have you attempted this with people remotely, like sending them the equipment?
No, not yet. It's too expensive, I think. And also, you talk about uncontrolled variables. We don't know what they're doing there. I think you need to be a little bit sterile in the environment, not too much, but you need to try and control as much as you could. But yeah, there's 10 million bits of information coming in not, you know, from everywhere. So if you can try and control some of the outside, it would help.
Does it require visuals? I mean, do you use this for radio?
Yeah, there's less bits for radio, isn't there? I mean, we talk about hearing is 100,000 and vision is 10. So I think it would work.
Have you done any runs with radio?
Yeah, no. It's the money's in commercials right now, but if it comes down, and it would be interesting to see, because I think that would be, yes, I think that the theory would work.
Yeah, I'll just that radio ads are.
Yeah.
Nobody's.
I think anything.
You don't TiVo radio.
Yeah, and, you know, TV commercials on the way out, aren't they? So why are we spending money doing methodology for something on the way out? But, you know, it's, people still $200 billion industry in the US.
Do you take into account or measure at all, like, any moods or anything like that prior to viewing?
Do you do that before you do an IDI interview?
No,
I don't think. We've got to watch it, because anything you say influences what goes on. So you want to.
Yeah, like, I guess so in that case, if you haven't ever, do you think that there could be like a noticeable level of detachment for somebody who's particularly stressed, or? Have you read behavioral economics books where they're telling you about all the influences that we don't know about?